Hello, everyone. This is Book Thoughts with Mr. Bill and Miss Natalie, and I am Miss Natalie, the lead teen librarian at Kalamazoo Public Library.
And I'm Mr. Bill, the lead children's librarian here at KPL. We're super excited to tell you about some of our favorite picks from the children's and teens collections at the library.
You might have heard this one read aloud recently during story time. It's What About Worms by Ryan T. Higgins. You might recognize Higgins' illustration style from the Penelope Rex picture books, which are also pretty great. This one is a reader in our Readers One area of books at the library, and it's in the Mo Willems Elephant and Piggy Like Reading series. And yes, Elephant and Piggy make an appearance, as does the pigeon from Don't Let the Pigeon Drive the Bus. And in an apple tree that really seems to be an homage to the tree from 10 Apples Up on Top. That's another popular reader from another time. Why do I love this new book from Ryan T. Higgins? I really like the character of Tiger and the characters of the worms and how their different points of view about each other and about the books make for a really funny read. I also really like sort of those metafiction books that we see from time to time. And it's pretty great to see how the worms consider the book that they see lying on the ground. Check this one out. It's really pretty fun.
So, the first teen book we are going to cover today is The Everything I Have Lost by Sylvia Zeleny. This book is diary style, what we call a memoir, in that the lead character is writing in her journal and we are reading her entries. So she is 13 when we meet her, and she lives on a border town in Mexico, just on the other side of El Paso. And so we get to see her coming of age, growing up in this border town with her parents, and she starts off in Mexico, having been born actually in Texas. And so she ends up moving across the border to live with her mother's family. And this is really about how families in this area, part of the Latin story, um, are sort of struggling to, or can struggle to, create a future for themselves and create a life for themselves depending on a lot of their circumstances. And even as she's dealing with things like drug and gang violence in her area, she's also just dealing with basic kid stuff for that age. A boy that she likes, trying to meet new friends at her school, worrying about money and growing up. And it's a really lovely story. It is for ages 11 plus. I will find or say rather that the story is very good. But I'm not sure how much older teens would like this. Some of the writing is very juvenile, and so it will feel maybe a little too young for teens who are 16, 17, or 18. Um, However, for middle school age and above, it is a very good book, and I think that they'll find that there's a lot to relate to the main character about, as well as something to learn.
Here's a great new spooky middle grade read, Ghost Squad by Clarabelle A. Ortega. Lucille's ancestors manifest as fireflies in their family home where she lives with them and her father, Simon, who leads historical Luna Ghost tours where they live in St. Augustine, Florida. They need to save the house from foreclosure when pressure from a competing ghost tour company expands into their territory. But Sid, Lucille's best friend, and Lucille have accidentally conjured up some malicious spirits, not helping the situation. But with a little help from Sid's witch grandmother, Babette, and her cat, they work together with Lucille's ancestors, too, to protect the town from a curse. This book has been compared to the movies Coco and Ghostbusters. I can see that. It also reminded me of Beetlejuice. Back in February, there were plans to make it into a movie. It would be really fun to see how the fantastical elements of the book are made visual. For now, it's an excellent Halloween-themed read with relatable characters with a little magic mixed in.
So this book is called We Are Not From Here by Jenny Torres Sanchez. This is a really, really fantastic fictional book. The story follows the three main characters, Pequeña, Pulgo, and Chico. And they are three teens who are relatively pretty young, like 13, 14 years old. They live in Guatemala, and while they're in Guatemala, they accidentally witness a crime being committed. And because of the threat to their families, the three of them, even though they're just teenagers, actually emigrate out of Guatemala, trying to get to the United States on foot. And they do it in any way they can, so they are refugees. And there's quite a bit of danger along the way, but there's just a lot of adventure too about what it would take for three kids and the kind of courage it takes to travel, thousands of miles like that on foot, just trying to get someplace safe, and even how the sort of uncertainty that comes with emigrating, and for refugees who are even wondering, what's going to greet them when they get to the country that they're trying to get to. This is a really, really good book. It is age 11 plus. There are some themes of violence in it, as I mentioned, but primarily the book centers around these kids fighting together to get to a safe place and imagining what their life is going to be when they get there. So, again, highly, highly recommended. Just a really fantastic book.
Here is a well-written picture book format biography of Supreme Court Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg. Ruth Bader Ginsburg, The Case of RBG versus Inequality by Jonah Winter. With Stacy Innerst's watercolor illustrations underscoring the text, this is an inspiring book about the recently passed Supreme Court Justice. As a woman, as a Jewish American, and as a working mother, Ginsburg faced many obstacles. Ginsburg was only the second woman and the first Jewish woman to be appointed as a justice to the Supreme Court. She did much to advance equality under the law for women before and during her time on the Supreme Court. She used the logic that inequality between men and women hurts both men and women. Yes, there really was a time when women were not allowed to attend some schools, colleges, or even enter some academic libraries just because they were women. There were jobs that they weren't allowed to work, even if they had the potential to do those jobs really well. There was a time when girls weren't allowed to play most sports. Can you imagine? It's the way it was. But the reason that it's a little better today is because people worked hard to make it better. Even though it would have been easier not to do that difficult work. Ruth Bader Ginsburg is a champion for justice because of her effectiveness at making change that resulted in more equality for women and men.
Okay, so our final teen book that we're going to talk about today is Felix Ever After by Kaysen Callender. This is a really good book. I know I keep saying that, but it really is. Felix Ever After is about a teen trans boy of color who is at a school, and one of the kids at the school finds a picture of Felix prior to his transition and posts it with his dead name. And he has to go through this pretty emotional journey of figuring out which one of his friends has done this, and it becomes a really great tale about finding who friends are and who's willing to work with you on the friendship, as well as Felix does meet a boy that he starts to get interested in. And this also deals just with what some of the trials of trans life can be, and some of the obstacles that they can face, as well as the prevalence of online bullying. And it's something that I think is easy to write off as not serious bullying, yet it very much is, and it's very serious to the kids who are targeted by online bullying. And it's a really great book. This is the kind of teen book that I think um, tends to be one that is good, particularly for the older kids. We don't give enough YA or young adult fiction, I should say, credit for how heavy some of the material really can be. And this is a very emotional content heavy book with, I guess I would say, it's not for the faint of heart, and certainly not for younger teens. I mean, this is definitely a 14 plus book just because of the emotions that it contends with and some of the language. So excellent book, 14 plus, and just really good, even if you haven't experienced any of these things in your life about like maybe trans life or bullying. But everybody has friends, everybody has people they care about, everybody goes to high school. So this is a really good book that will touch somebody's heart in some way. Everybody will find something in common with Felix.
Snapdragon is a new graphic novel by Kat Leigh. Snap is a girl who befriends an older woman who is known as the town witch. But really, Jax, the older woman, is all kindness, though she could easily be perceived as a little quirky. She becomes friends with Snapdragon. Snap becomes her apprentice in her work, articulating skeletons and selling them online as art and educational tools. These are skeletons from roadkill that she gathers. So yeah, she could be perceived as a little quirky. Snapdragon's friend, Lou, is another great kid who, with two older brothers who make fun of her but ultimately love her, is best friends with Snapdragon. There is so much to love in this book. You will find some really excellent plot twists, and I think you'll have a really difficult time putting it down. It's a great read because it starts out as realistic contemporary fiction, but there's added magic. The illustrations really are fantastic too. There are some interesting multi-dimensional characters besides Lou and Snapdragon and Jax. And Kat Leigh is one of the creators of the Lumberjanes series. At the end of this new graphic novel, there are pages that show how Kat developed the character sketches. It's kind of a behind-the-scenes look at how the book was developed. I really liked seeing this process because the illustrations are so captivating. This 2020 graphic novel is great for anyone who loves a great feel-good graphic novel story with just a little bit of magic mixed in. Thanks so much for joining us for Book Thoughts. We'll be back next month with even more great picks from the Kalamazoo Public Library children's and teen collections. Bye for now.